September 2012, Los Angeles, California. My little sister's Jenny's wedding was in Los Angeles, California in September. It was a grand affair held in a beautiful place in Malibu. All the old friends and family were there, Chip T-Tie, Jim Durborough, and Bob Montgomery included. Something was wrong, though. I could feel it. After Jenny had a really sweet wedding and left with her new husband for a vacation on an island, my mom and dad got real serious and said we had to meet at my other sister Allie's house in West Hollywood to talk about something important. Allie said to me, "They're going to tell us that Dad's dying, and they hid it until now because they didn't want to ruin Jenny's wedding." I was like, "Man, Allie, you're on some fortune teller shit. Settle down. He's just tired from the courtroom vampires." She shrugged. 2 hours later, we met at Allie's house. It was weird. My parents looked really sad and old and tired, but at the same time, they looked like little kids. I totally felt like me and Allie were the parents now. After sitting there for a short amount of time, my mom said, "Kids, we're very sorry. We don't want you to stop your lives for this, but your father has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer." "It's pretty shitty," he interrupted. "I'm in trouble. I'm going to do my best to eke out what I've got left, but it doesn't look good." I stared into space. Allie crawled into my dad's lap and put her head on his shoulder and began to cry. My dad tried to comfort her. He looked really sad and distant. I don't remember what my mom was doing. I remember vaguely that she was surprisingly brave and poised. Then my father started breaking down all this legal business shit. Then my parents walked slowly out of Allie's house to drive down to Laguna, where they would be staying before returning to Baltimore 2 days later. Before leaving, they told me to go see Dan before coming to join them in Laguna. "Go see Dan?" I said. "What are you talking about?" "You should see your friends," my father said, and he closed the door to the rental car and drove away. Now my mom was crying. Later that afternoon, Los Angeles, California. "Are you really going to go see Dan?" my sister asked. "Yeah, I texted him. That's what Dad said to do. He wants to meet me at the Rainbow Room." "The Rainbow Room?" she said disdainfully. "He does know that late 80s glam rock is over. Do you really feel comfortable being in that filth museum right now?" "Allie," I said, "he doesn't know our lives are in shambles. He thinks that we're just meeting for drinks." "You can't tell him," she said. "We have to keep it a secret till Jenny gets back." "I know," I said, and I drove over to Sunset Strip to meet Dan. Allie was right. Dan does love rock and roll. He wears a leather jacket with Harley-Davidson patches all over it non-ironically. He plays in a rock and roll band. He loves partying. He loves girls. And he has a very romantic view about music and life in general. We sat at the Rainbow Room. We had 4 whiskeys, and I didn't tell him what was going on. Then I drove to Laguna Beach. The next day, Laguna Beach. I was sitting in the sunshine with my father on the deck of a house on Bluebird Canyon Road. It was morning time. The sea down below was blue and clear. My father was reading the newspaper. "Did you see Dan last night?" he asked. "I did." "Where did you guys go?" "We went to the Rainbow Room." "Where's that?" "On Sunset." "Sunset and what?" "Jesus," I said, "why does it matter?" "Sunset and what?" he said, pulling the paper down to reveal his face. A little less sad than the night before, with a recognizable flicker of mischief once again shining through. "Man, I don't know what the cross street is. It's on that part of Sunset that was a nostalgic rock and roll fetish all over it. Dan wanted to go there because it was in the November Rain video." "No," my father said. "He likes the bartender." "Of course he does. Dan likes all bartenders." "No, not because she has drinks to pour, because she's a pretty girl." "And how do you know that?" I asked. "You'll figure it out one day. Is Dan still doing remodeling work?" "Yes, I think mostly he does set design now, but yeah, he still builds a million things." "You should really have him redo your bathroom. I'll pay for it. I want to do that for you. I think you'll really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. After that, you're on your own," he said, rather mysteriously. "Whoa," I said, still refusing to believe in the inevitability of his illness. "Let's take this one step at a time. We're going to deal with your health first, then I gotta finish my record, then we'll have time for the bathroom." "Michael," he said, shaking his head, "you never think you have time for anything." October 2012, Hunt Valley, Maryland. I went back to Maryland to spend time with my dad and mom to help out during chemotherapy. Before the day when we had to go to the chemotherapy place, my father brought 2 huge cardboard boxes up from the basement. They were filled with canisters of old home movies. He told me to find a place to get them digitized. I told him I would. The next morning I found a place and dropped them off. It was the Ritz Camera at the Kenilworth Mall. That was a bad decision, but that's another story. For several days, we went for long walks and saw the leaves changing colors on the autumn trees. A breeze was blowing. We watched baseball games on TV. Then we went to that chemotherapy place. Therapy is a fully evil word to use. That shit is medieval and inhumane. I'm sorry to say it, but that's how I feel. After that, he couldn't go for walks anymore. The wind blew cold and the sky got dark earlier. The night before I was to fly back to California, my father asked me if I got the movies digitized. Yeah, I dropped them off, I said. I want to show them at Thanksgiving, he said. They'll be ready at Thanksgiving, I replied. I gave him a hug, I went to bed, and the next morning I flew back to San Francisco.